Welcome back to another episode of the Orange Ball Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Winter, along with my co-host, Brendan Beal, as always. Today is episode 4, and we were absent last week, but we give a shout-out to the Game Chat Podcast for having us on. Shout-out to Reed and Jack.
Yeah, that was a fun time with those boys. They do all sorts of stuff all over NFL, college football, all that kind of stuff, so it was fun to talk with them. Had a good time.
Yeah, we talked a little college football, a little NFL, made some predictions, and it was overall a good time. But today we're going to go over a little college hoops from this past week. We're going to review college football. We're going to talk about this next week, some in-state rivalries, and then we will make some picks for this weekend. So first things first, on Twitter we recently saw that Adrian Wojnarowski, a.k.a. Woj, he made his final Woj bomb as he announced he was retiring from being an NBA analyst and now is working at, GM of St. Bonaventure?
Yeah, it might be on the Bonnie staff.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was going to do some NIL recruiting type thing, but it's going to be weird, especially during the NBA season when you're expecting some news to come out, and it's not by Woj. It'll be definitely a change for the old NBA Twitter.
Oh, for sure. I guess Shams is going to be the guy now.
We're going to have to rely on him for our news.
Yeah, but good for it'll probably bring attention to St. Bonaventure in the A10, and
I think it'll be good
because he got that massive following and stuff.
I'm sure that he'll do a good job with social media and working that into their NIL and probably get some players that are interested in that kind of thing. So it'll be cool to watch.
For sure, yeah. In other college basketball news, it was just announced yesterday also that Baylor and Gonzaga would be playing the first day of college basketball this year. That's probably one of the top matchups we're going to see for the week, definitely.
Yeah, that'll be a good matchup, and it'll be in Spokane Arena, I believe. Yep. So that'll be a good atmosphere, definitely a great start to the year. You always want to see a big matchup on day one, and we'll be gearing up for that. I also saw, I don't know if you saw this, Gonzaga, Mark Few kind of came out and said that their assistant Brian Michelson is next in line for the head coaching job there. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that, yeah.
Obviously, no time frame for him retiring, but pretty interesting news, and so they'll probably just keep that same staff rolling, and I see no signs of them slowing down once he leaves. So, just kind of interesting news. Just come out. Obviously, he's not going to say he's going to retire anytime soon, but who knows? Who knows when that time frame is? You never know with these guys. So,
yeah, it's like that Gonzaga family tree kind of. They just go from coach to coach, like with Coach Munson back in '99 or whatever that was, and then handed it off to Fewy, and then Few going to hand it off to Michelson.
Yeah.
So.
I think it makes sense for them. There's no reason to go out of what they've already done, and I think Michelson's kind of one of their big recruiters right now for them, now that Tommy Lloyd left. But, I think that'll be interesting to watch and keep an eye on for the coming years, but obviously no sign of Gonzaga being out of the race for the national championship and all that. So
and they definitely have an older team and a experienced team this year, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do and how their season goes this year.
Yeah, and then I guess along with that is the Pac-12 news. I know we talked about it with the Game Chat guys, more about football, but obviously huge ramifications for Mountain West basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the right move for Boise State and the rest of the teams to kind of be proactive, and Boise State's been left behind a couple of times in this whole thing, so I think it makes sense. But you also lose a couple of great games throughout the year with Utah State, New Mexico. So what do you kind of think about that and going forward with the Pac-12?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the teams who joined the new Pac-12, we see obviously San Diego State. We know they're a powerhouse basketball school. Colorado State's had some really good teams the last few years. Hopefully they can keep that up. Fresno State, they've struggled a little bit, but they have a new head coach coming in, so we'll see. And, of course, Boise State, They've been strong as well the last few years, but hopefully they can add Memphis, and there would be huge for basketball, especially even with all that Memphis stuff going on, all them in the news. But I was also thinking Tulane want to be added. I don't really know. I have watched them a little bit. They had some upsets last year, but
is Ron Hunter still our coach? I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Ron Hunter from.
So, yeah, and I think UNLV gets added.
Yeah.
I think they're probably working on that. But yeah, I mean, you add Memphis, and man, that's a great league for basketball. And the problem with, I think, any Mountain West school, in the recent years is no one wants to come out here and play. No one wants to come play. Memphis would never come out and schedule a home and home with Boise State or Utah State or Colorado State or any of those schools that joined. I guess Utah State didn't, but in that regard, no teams are coming. You can't get teams to come out and play.
No. I don't know how they got Clemson to come out here.
Yeah. And maybe they scheduled that in a couple years prior where, however that works, where all of a sudden Clemson was in the Elite Eight last year. And, but yeah, if you can get Memphis to come out and play games at, San Diego State, I mean, that's going to be a huge matchup, and that'll be really fun to watch. So I think that's obviously football comes first, but, in basketball sense, that's going to be, if they add them, that's a great league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think they do need to add UNLV because UNLV is going to be dangerous this year. I think they're going to have a really good team. They've got freshman of the year, De'Don Thomas, back. They've got Rob Whaley, who was dominant last year in games, and they're super athletic, can guard, can play. So
yeah, they always kind of just similar to Memphis, honestly, just on a little bit of a lower scale. I mean, they kind of just have these freak athletes, and if you can put it together, then that's a really dangerous team. We saw it firsthand how dangerous they are, and if they can kind of put it all together, they'll be a tough out in the league. And now all of a sudden, these next 2 years are going to be even more fun for the Mountain West basketball, just because you have all these teams who are going to be pissed off and going to be angry at kind of how being left out, and whether you're Wyoming or Utah State, you're going to be pissed off, and you want to get your last shot at some of these schools. So I think it just makes these next 2 years even better for the league too.
Yeah, I would say, if some of these schools get left behind, I hope that they schedule non-conference, some of the games, just because of the rivalries some teams have had with each other, especially Colorado State and Wyoming has a rivalry. Boise State's had great games with Utah State, and so I mean that would be kind of a shame to have that gone, but hopefully they work something out.
Yeah, and that I think there's been this 3-4 years in a row with Washington State, this kind of deal, and now you'll be able to play them in conference. So you take that out of your non-conference slate, and maybe you add New Mexico or something like that, and schedule a game with them. But definitely disappointing to see some of the games kind of fall out of line with the teams being left behind. But I mean, that's just how this thing's going right now, and we already seen that with the Pac-12, where you're losing a couple of games, and teams have been scrambling to try to, Washington State trying to play Oregon State are playing, but it's definitely not the same. But that's just kind of how this thing's just unfolding as it keeps going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, since you mentioned that, we did have some in-state rivalries going on this weekend in the college football landscape. You had the Apple Cup with Washington State, and the Civil War with Oregon and Oregon State. I know you watched both games. What were your thoughts on either, or which teams looked good, which teams didn't?
I mean, obviously, Oregon State was kind of a dud. Oregon in that second half finally looked like the team that we were expecting 3 weeks ago. They looked pretty good, but also I think there's a bigger discrepancy between Oregon and Oregon State right now, and I don't know if they continue that rivalry, because the way things are kind of going for both programs, it doesn't seem to benefit either team realistically, and that's not how I remember the Civil War. I remember the Civil War growing up being a game where winner goes to the Rose Bowl, after Thanksgiving and that kind of thing. And it's kind of weird to see, how big of a gap talent-wise I think there is a gap talent-wise between Washington and Washington State, but Washington State just came out with their hair on fire. They didn't necessarily play a fantastic game, but did what they needed to do and got stops and won in Seattle at Lumen Field, which was pretty cool to watch. It's like seeing some of the videos of the stands of all the Coug fans kind of, ushering the UW fans out of that stadium was neat. I think you needed one of those teams to win just to have like that kind of sense of pride for the Pac-2, I guess they're calling it now. But
there was I was listening to Pardon My Take, and PFT had a good analogy. It was kind of, it was almost like when Washington left the conference, they were driving away with their middle fingers outside the window to Washington State fans, and then they run into a tree because as they lost yesterday, or not yesterday, but Saturday. So it was just like not only was it a big win obviously for Washington State, but also it was a big morale win just from them basically abandoning their conference, and then they ended up beating them. So
yeah, I enjoyed watching that game for sure, and brutal play call for the Huskies at the end with that little option play, and it was just eaten alive. But but all of a sudden now, and I think for as us as living in Boise and being around Boise State, the Wazoo game was circled just because that's a great game on the blue, but this game is going to be huge now, and I'm really excited to go to that game and watch that one. So
yeah, I mean, Washington State has a chance. Well, we'll see what happens with other teams, but if they win on Friday, they have a chance to be ranked.
Yeah.
And then
I don't think Boise State will get ranked just because you have a bye.
Yeah.
Portland State, whatever you do to them, you're not probably going to jump anyone, but yeah, it could be a 23rd ranked Washington State team coming in, and they look tough, man, and they don't have they definitely don't have that feel of like a letdown type game in them. They just are fired up for the whole season, and I think that's Dickert kind of getting them rolling, and then but yeah, they look fiery, and that'll be a good game on the blue.
Yeah. I'd love that they rushed the field after they beat you. Especially it was an NFL stadium, Lumen Field. So I remember in Seattle a couple years ago, they rushed the Husky field and
planted the flag. Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're not going to do that again because it's an NFL field. And
yeah, but I mean, you're still a neutral site game, but you're 2 miles away and from Husky Stadium. Okay with that. I think it was definitely cool to see, and I think you needed one of those two teams to win to have some pride in what you're doing, and obviously being left behind sucks, but they've been able to rebuild, and they're starting to rebuild that conference like we were talking about. So I think those games should continue. Civil War is just not the same when it's a blowout like that. That game was close at halftime, but Oregon State just kind of controlled the time of possession in the first half, and Oregon scored, kind of at will, but they just only had 3 possessions or whatever in the first half, and then you saw the defense kind of tighten up, and it was just a talent gap that kind of exposed itself. And Oregon finally provided the win that a lot of people were waiting for them. I mean, this game should have been week 1 with Idaho, and then I think Boise State's actually really good, so I wasn't expecting a blowout by any means in that game, but yeah, I think you finally saw Oregon show up in a way that makes you feel better about them going forward. So. Yeah,
they definitely needed that for their upcoming games with teams like Michigan and Ohio State for sure.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about another player that has kind of made news recently, but is Dylan Raiola a weirdo for impersonating Patrick Mahomes?
I've really thought about this because I think you see so much in sports about, okay, I idolize players or whatever, and growing up, you always want to play like the guys you love watching. I grew up loving Steve Nash, so I used to, in third grade basketball, I'm gonna dribble behind the basket and find a pass.
Yeah.
You do that kind of stuff. But when it becomes like he's wearing the same undersleeves. He's wearing the hand warmer. And then he's got like the hair and the sunglasses, and he's doing the. That just is. It's a little creepy.
Yeah.
It's a little gimmicky for me.
Yeah, I mean, like it's one thing to wear like the same number and kind of impersonate your game.
But he
like
also
somebody.
said he was wearing 15 because of Tebow.
Yeah,
which is a lie. It has to be a lie.
Yeah. But when you're going out there pregame warm-ups and doing the exact same like hype me up,
Yeah, and like
thing
the jump thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean it's a little over the top, but
It's one thing to. I mean, it's also Patrick Mahomes.
Mhm.
So everyone's trying to do the passing like
Yeah.
he does. Like that's one thing on the field where you take like what Mahomes is doing and incorporate it. But when it becomes like walking into the stadium and you're wearing the exact same like big Oakley sunglasses and the hair and the headband and all that, it's a little out there. It's a little extreme for me. But
yeah.
I don't know. He's playing good.
Yeah,
he's a good quarterback in
Yeah.
himself. I just think it would be weird if you do that all of college and you get drafted. Now you play Patrick Mahomes. Are you going to be doing that like in a matchup against him? I don't know. I mean, yeah.
It's a little weird, but yeah, like you said, he's a great player and great quarterback, and the Huskers are rolling.
Yeah, they look pretty good, and they'll have a good game this week or Friday, I believe, against Illinois, and we'll pick that one later. But yeah, Huskers are back. Which is I think good for college football too.
Yeah,
I like when they're good.
Yeah, back in when was that, like the 90s?
Yeah, mid 90s they were really good, and I don't know, it just makes you feel like kind of nostalgic about it for sure. But yeah, I think it'll be good, and had some interesting games this weekend for sure with Georgia almost losing too, and they were kind of my pick going into the weekend of being really physical and outworking teams, and they got outworked pretty much. Kentucky just kind of gave away the game at the end. Alabama looks good. They beat Wisconsin, but Wisconsin lost their starter, so it wasn't a great slate of games for sure. But saw some decent ones. That made sense. So
the backyard brawl, or West Virginia.
Yeah,
Pitt.
we were kind of watching that one. So they do the fake punt, and I look away, and all of a sudden they're punting again, and it gets blocked, and it's going the other way. I was like, "What?" I was looking at you like, "What? Wait, what happened?" I'm confused, and you were like, "Oh, they blocked another punt. They blocked the next punt."
Yeah, they did. I think it was like holding or something. Oh, yeah.
And they might have just punted after another 3 and out or something. I couldn't remember, but yeah, it was pretty wild.
And then South Carolina goes up 17-0 against LSU, and they end up missing a field goal to tie the game.
Yeah,
and lose. That was a great
and
game.
If their quarterback Sellers he's a good runner, and he kind of ran all over him. And then he came up like with an ankle injury, and it was like they took away. Yeah, he had no ability to run, so it was just like trying to hold on for dear life for the rest of the game. And big win for LSU though.
Also, is it possible that Arch Manning wins a Heisman after not starting the season?
I know. How lucky would it be to be a Texas fan right now, where you lose probably the best quarterback in the I don't even know if I would say probably the best quarterback in the country, and you plug in a Manning, like
who can run?
Yeah, who can run, which is unheard of. But yeah, I mean, he'll roll this weekend. I think they've got like Louisiana Monroe or something, so I'm sure he'll be good. And lucky to have such a great backup at your disposal whenever you need.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if he does great. I mean, you probably just wait till Ewers is absolutely 100% to plug him back in. I'm sure they've got some SEC matchups coming in that you probably want him back for. But
is the Red River rivalry next week?
It might be a couple weeks out. I know next week the big game is Georgia, Alabama.
Let me look it up here. Where is it? I've always wanted to go to this game.
Yeah, it would be fun.
It's October 12th, the greatest day in college football history.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, that'll be a big one then.
Yeah, I feel if you had a fall wedding that day,
Yeah.
I feel bad
I
for
would
you.
have to decline the invitation on that one.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna actually go to Oregon, Ohio State that weekend.
So
We'll have some little. I think that will be, and I've kind of heard some Oregon fans talk about it, but that will probably be the greatest game, the biggest game ever played at Autzen Stadium. So
Definitely.
I'd imagine that'll be giant. And Oregon kind of has like, they have a bye this week. They play UCLA, who looks horrible, and then Michigan State at home. So they'll be probably most likely going in that game undefeated, both teams, and I'd imagine it'd be a second-ranked Ohio State.
Yeah, if they keep winning.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it'll be a big weekend, and then I don't know. This week has some good games, but again, kind of everyone's just kind of waiting for all the conference games to start up. But yeah.
Should we get into the games this week?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Cool. All right. First game is Nebraska versus Illinois. This episode is coming out Friday, so this is tonight.
Yeah. Illinois looks actually pretty good. They have like a good running back, quarterback who hasn't turned it over. I think this one's in Lincoln, so I think Nebraska will win, but this will actually be a really good game, both ranked teams in the Big Ten. So I like Nebraska in it, but Illinois might be a team that wins a couple games in the Big Ten that they probably weren't supposed to at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, the Huskers are rolling, so I'm gonna go Nebraska. I got faith in Patrick Mahomes the second. You want to preview next game?
So USC at Michigan in the Big House. Michigan has not looked really up to standard of what we were used to, but who do you got in that one?
Yeah, I'm gonna go USC. They're starting Orgy again this week, I think, because Davis Warren he's been struggling a little bit, especially against Arkansas State last week.
I think they only won by
they didn't cover.
10 points or something like that. So.
But yeah, I'm gonna go USC. They are gonna walk into the Big House and take the dub.
Yeah, I think USC's interesting because they actually play a little defense, and I don't know. Michigan has to score points. Like, there's no way they're going to win this game 18-16 or whatever. Like they want to. I think USC probably wins and covers, and it's going to be a shaky start to the season for Michigan. I think. And another big game though, Oklahoma State versus Utah. Cam Rising's back. It sounds like so. But that'll be a big game in Stillwater.
I think I'm gonna go Oklahoma State. I do like Utah. My cousin plays for them, so I'm a Ute for now. But I think they have also been a little shaky. I know Cam Rising has been in and out, but I just think Oklahoma State is gonna beat them. They're the better team.
I think I might go with the Utes.
Okay.
I'm gonna roll with your cousin over in Utah. We're kind of waiting to see Ollie Gordon
True.
like show up. He was supposed to be, it was supposed to be him and Ashton Genty kind of this week in and week out battle for who's the best running back, and he hasn't really shown up. So if he does, I'm probably badly mistaken. But I think Cam Rising, or both quarterbacks are like 7th-year guys, so we'll see with that. But I think Cam Rising, when he plays, Utah is a completely different team. He's a good quarterback. So I like the Utes in this one.
All right, next one is Tennessee at Oklahoma.
I think Tennessee wins this one. And I kind of saw this, they're only favored by 7 points, which is
on the road.
But doesn't seem like it's enough for what they've been doing. They scored like 50 points in the first half against Kent State, whatever. But I'm not super bought in on Oklahoma quite yet. I think Tennessee's got it really rolling right now. And Heupel, their coach at Tennessee, he was kind of fired from Oklahoma, like all this kind of stuff. So kind of this background noise. But I like the Vols in that one.
Yeah, this one was tough for me just because I do like Oklahoma, but I think Tennessee is just firing on all cylinders right now. So I'm gonna go Tennessee as well.
Next one I got, which isn't necessarily a big game, and I don't know how many people are really care about it, but I think it's just crazy to me that Florida State versus Cal, where this is an ACC matchup, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But also Cal's 3-0, Florida State's 0-3, and this one's down in Tallahassee. So who do you got with that one?
This is kind of like the meme bowl. Like, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter. I guess you know how Cal's like seen as the liberal school,
Yeah.
California school,
Berkeley,
yeah.
You know, all that.
But there's like these AI images of like a Cal Golden Bear coming down and saying that you're going to take their guns and fall into the liberal propaganda. So I think that's hilarious. But I'm gonna go Cal.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
gonna
think-
roll with Cal
yeah.
too.
I think Florida State. The guy on Twitter, that's the curse. It's the Florida State curse. Until he eats the dog poop, they're not winning another game.
Yeah, if you guys didn't hear about that, basically, was that week 1? Or
Week two to
Week
Boston
2.
College.
This guy came out.
Or I guess it was week 1 because they played.
Yeah,
week two.
yeah. So Florida State loses in Dublin. The next week, a guy on Twitter posts, if Florida State doesn't beat Boston College, I'll eat dog poop out of a red Solo cup.
Mark it down.
Mark
they
it
said.
down. And they lose, and he immediately deactivates all of his social media. All these Florida State fans are pissed because they think it's a curse. And everyone in America has basically said, yeah, they won't win another game until he does that. They like found his fiance's Instagram page and blew up her DMs about saying how her fiance cursed the season. And so yeah, I think the Golden Bears
4-0.
4-0, and Florida State's got some real problems too. Like they're not good on offense, and it's actually some real issues with them. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's kind of all the main slate, honestly. I mean, Boise State, which we usually pick, but they've got Portland State,
Yeah.
so hopefully that's not a game where the starters need to play more than 2 quarters. Genty will probably have 10 some carries and just let him kind of run and then pull him out. Portland State had that whooping cough incident.
True.
So I don't know how many guys they'll necessarily have, but yeah. You have any other games written down that?
No, not really. There isn't a ton of great games. Yeah, I think we covered it all. All right, so now we're gonna do a kind of, pardon my take, inspired draft like they do, but we're gonna go worst places to watch a sports game, football, basketball, whatever.
Okay.
We're gonna go 3 rounds. We'll go. You can start, and then I'll pick next. But
Okay, we kind of mentioned this earlier. Great day of college football, and you have to go to a wedding, and you're watching a game, close game, 4th quarter, and you got to do the old phone underneath, and also so no one can see you because that's a real
during
like the ceremony, you got like, you know, Georgia, Alabama's playing, and they're in the 4th quarter tied, and you got to kind of sneak this game. That's brutal.
Yeah.
That's a brutal one for me.
I would agree. I would say that would be the top pick. You're at a wedding. They're giving the best man speeches, and you're just locked in on the game. For my pick, I'm gonna go like at a party. So you really want to go. It could be any kind of party, like just like a get together or I don't know, a baby shower or something like that. But everybody's like, the main attention is not on the game. Like you're trying to watch the game.
Like no one cares.
No, and everybody's like talking and like being annoying or whatever, and you're trying to watch it, and it's just not it. But you can go next.
We'll do a snake.
Draft? Okay. I'm gonna say at the game in the upper deck.
Yeah, depending on the stadium,
Yeah.
it can be kind of brutal.
Especially for football. To me, I don't like watching football live in person as compared to at home. But basketball is different. But I'd say, yeah, bad environment.
Especially if like the weather's like really bad or something.
Or it's a bad game.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah. So I'm going to go at the game.
Okay. I'm going to go super specific. A Super Bowl party where everyone cares about the commercials.
Oh, that.
So you're trying to focus on, the big game, obviously, and everyone talks during the game, but then everyone's like, hold on, let's watch these commercials. That ticks me off.
That's the worst.
I could care less about the commercials.
Yeah.
It's great. It's funny, whatever, but I want to mute the commercials and then we can talk and then, do that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think that's one for me.
Mm.
My last pick, I'll go, I'll just go crowded bar. For me is not it's kind of my, especially when it's either not a game that everyone's like opposed to a bar where everyone's rooting for, your team or your game, the game that everyone's watching. If you're just trying to watch like a decent game at a bar where they're not playing the, sound on the TV and there's like music or something going on, you're trying to watch a game. That's just not, I'd rather be on the couch, at that point. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. For my last pick, this actually happened to me a couple weeks ago. A restaurant with bad connection.
Ooh.
Or bad
Yeah.
TV signal. I was at a restaurant and they had DirecTV, and with the DirecTV and ESPN thing, so they were trying to stream it from something. I don't know.
Get a couple circles going.
Yeah,
on the TV.
it just kept stopping and starting again, and it was not a very enjoyable experience.
If you're a bar owner and you don't have your TV game locked in,
oh yeah,
you can't own a bar. Especially like a sports bar or something. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You gotta have that.
Like that separates you from a good bar to a great bar.
Yeah.
If you have the TVs locked in and you don't have, my pet peeve is when I get it. It's not their job, like waitresses' jobs to change channels, but it's like my pet peeve is when there's like big games on and you got like a rerun of the 2008 NFL preseason game.
Or like MMA or something going on. It's like, dude, we got games
Or
on.
Formula One.
Yeah.
Horse racing, whatever.
Yeah. Like, if it's a Saturday, like, you got to be aware from September 1st to, January.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there's gonna be college football on. Probably got to have that locked in. And
Yeah.
then whatever it is, even like March Madness, like, you got to be aware that games are going to start early or that kind of thing. So I think, I think that's a big one.
And also the game to TV ratio. You don't want 6 of the same game on every TV and then like 1 of another game on another. But
honorable mention for me is, because I'm not huge into this, so it's one thing, but like if you're with a group of guys who only care about either gambling or fantasy football, that's brutal for me. Because if you're like, if we're sitting there rooting for the Seahawks and all of us are Seahawks fans, and there's one dude who's like cheering because his fantasy running back on the other team got a 45-yard gain, like that's just not, like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, have some feel about that.
Yeah.
Or like the gambling, like, first of all, never gamble on your own team because that's the dumbest thing you could ever do, in my opinion. And if you are gambling, like, don't bring down the mood of the of the whole crowd because your bet lost and you probably only put $5 on it or whatever. But that kind of thing is kind of annoying too.
Yeah, I would agree. And for my honorable mention, I'll say in a group of people who are rooting for the opposite team. Yeah. Like especially if they're like douches about it, it just ruins the.
And we've been to opposing stadiums like together where it's just not. It's enjoyable if the game was good, but like we've been to some bad ones where it's not, not great.
People barking in your face.
Yeah, I mean we went to Boise State versus Washington last year, and little did we know Washington was going to be one of the best teams in the country. It was week 1, but yeah, that was not enjoyable after a quarter of the game.
No.
So that's definitely I don't really enjoy going to away games for teams I root for.
Yeah, it is cool though if you win, and then you just get to silence everybody up.
It's kind of a gamble in that way.
Yeah. But I think that's all we got. Do you have anything else?
No, I think it'll be good. You're taking off to Boston this weekend,
Yep.
so tell us about your plans over in Mass.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting there Saturday morning. Gonna go to that Red Sox game. I think it's in late afternoon, and then Boston College is hosting Michigan State, so we may make a surprise trip out there. We'll, if I do, I'll put some videos or pictures on the Instagram account. Follow Orange Ball Media on Instagram, and then probably just check it out. Never been in the Northeast. Maybe you could do a Fenway tour.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. You have to snap some pics of Fenway.
Yeah.
Well, probably one of the coolest places for sports.
Yeah.
Regardless of the sport, so that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Say, check it off the MLB Stadium list.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be back next week with another episode. Another week closer to college basketball.
Yeah. Hopefully have some. There's definitely more schedules coming out, and I think all the conference schedules will probably be out this week too.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be able to take a look at some matchups coming up, and yeah, we're almost month and a half away, and excited for it, man.
Yeah, we'll start getting some people on here soon, and yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. That was fun.
Yeah. All right. Join us next. Yeah. Thank you. Join us next time.